Hi, I'm Sam. I'm the co-founder of Kingdom Impact Lab with my wife Tattoo, and in this video today I want to talk about something that, well, I have to admit, it's something that is extremely painful for me. It's one of those things where you look back at something you did in the past, and I wouldn't say you have regret, but you're embarrassed at what you did. You're a little bit ashamed of your actions, and in general, you know in your heart that you have done some things that aren't exactly the best. And I guess in many ways this is a video sharing my own repentance, and it's also to talk about and explain why I want to build my business on biblical principles. I hope that my journey will provide some kind of help to you too. Maybe you can resonate with some of the things that I talk about. Maybe you can resonate with some of the struggles that I've had. And I also sincerely believe that the amount of suffering that someone has is, in the present moment, is proportionate to their level of credibility and authority and their ability to help others going through a similar situation at some point in the future. And so I kind of like, who would you prefer as a grief counsellor? Someone that lost their wife or husband at a young age, and then they managed to get over it and pull their life back together, and then, you know, get through it. Would you prefer them to counsel you, or someone that's just graduated from university with a social science degree or whatever it is that they do, and they've never experienced grief before, they've got all their grandparents still, all the parents, they've never suffered loss? Who would you prefer as a grief counsellor? Well, obviously the one that's gone through it. They understand how you feel. They found something to help them get through the present suffering, and they've come through the other end as a better person. So I'm hoping that my story here, if any of it resonates with you, then I hope that it gives me credibility in your eyes that I can actually help you get through it, and I can help anyone who might be interested, because I have been developing a framework which I've spent, the last 8 months, I think it is, trying to figure out. I've used it on myself and it works for me, and in the spirit of Kingdom Impact Lab, where the lab refers to my goal is to set everything up as a research entity. I want to create hypotheses, test them, develop areas of research, further knowledge, and then use this to teach others. I do want to test my framework on a few other people to just make sure it works, to find out how it is. So if you're interested, you can reach out to me, and you can find me on LinkedIn at the moment. That would probably be the best. And if not, you can email me, sam@kingdomimpactlab.com. So let's dive in. I apologise for the long introduction. Just a quick caveat for a few seconds is that I'm not really very good at recording these videos, as you can probably tell. My goal is to become the person in the future that is good at recording videos. So I'm very open, happy, vulnerable to make all the mistakes on film, because the more mistakes I make, eventually I'm going to reach a point where I can't make any more and I figure it out. So let's dive in. So what was my biggest sins? So, a bit of backstory. I started out, interestingly enough, as a teacher, teaching English for several years, and then I started to travel with my wife for a few years, and while I was traveling I learned how to become a copywriter. Something I enjoyed. I was good at writing, always been a writer, and so I always had that spirit within me to want to learn, to want to study, to want that insatiable curiosity to learn more. It's a gift that I'm blessed to have. Obviously, I fall short in a lot of other areas, but I am good at studying, and I enjoy it, and it's fun for me. So naturally, I read everything I could on copywriting. I learned as much as I can. I started to buy courses. Long story short, over a 10-year period, I spent tens of thousands of dollars on courses, education, training, coaching, and I spent over $100,000, perhaps more, on advancing my knowledge and understanding in copywriting, business, making sales, and all of these different things. Granted, a lot of that was invested into my business, which I did not get the return on investment from. And you know, it was pretty much one of these things where all the money that I made over the years from copywriting, I reinvested back into my business, and then the business didn't work, so I shut the business. So the way I look at it is that everything in the past, all of it, I've gained a lot of insight and wisdom along the way, so it's kind of part of training. Well, let's explore two parts of this here. So the first part is what I actually invested my money in on training, education, advancing my skills, coaching. And then the second part of this is why did none of it work, and why did I end up shutting my business, which was a marketing agency offering business consulting, email marketing services, helping people basically sell high ticket offers is what I used to do. My responsibilities was I helped them get book calls, I helped them create strategic funnels, business strategy, consulting, all of these things to help my client essentially make more money. My big selling point in my as a copywriter and business, after I got the experience, was I can help you get a big ROI on your investment in my service. Examples would be that with a client I work with, I promised them that I would get them a 6 times return on their investment on my fee. So that was it. In fact, everything that I did was based on this. So I spent so much money on coaching, education, training in order to be confident to have the skills and the ability to offer that as a service and as a guarantee. And I can tell you that not every time it worked. I found myself in situations where I offered a big guarantee because I was confident, but it was the wrong client with the wrong systems in place. It didn't work, it cost me. You know, it is what it is. But anyway, let's look into the education. So everything that I learned from day one as I stepped into copywriting was based on reading books, reading from people that inspired me. I found the people that I liked, what they did, and then I'd consume all of their content. I'd listen to everything they did. I'd try to figure out why they were doing what they doing, what they were doing. I went through a process which was taught to me of handwriting out high converting sales material, like sales letters, emails and things, which I did, and I really did put my dues into going through the process to learn. This built up to investing more and more in courses. I remember once not having much money, but signing up to a email marketing course, which was $200 a month over 12 months. And then going through that, I learned different tactics, and then I applied what was taught in the course to the next clients that I was working with. I remember as well when money was running low, and I had the opportunity to join a small group coaching with a business organization that I'd been learning from and bought their courses from. It was the same company that did the email one I mentioned just, and that was $5,000. Well, that was, at the time, that was more than a third of all the money that we had. And I went through and thought it was fantastic, learned a lot, understood things, and then got a client, and I actually started using it with them and started to get monthly revenue, and then that led to more clients, and you'd use the success story from one client to get the next client, and as fate had it, I got a really good client for 2 years, and then that was it. So everything that I learned about was based on a worldly, secular kind of influence. What I mean by that is sales letters are designed to get people to buy things. I wrote them out, I studied them. All of the people I learned from are teaching you this typical business opportunity stuff, where they're teaching you what to do, how to basically get people to take action. So if you were to look at it, it's to get people who otherwise aren't prepared to take action for whatever reason, to motivate them to do something that you want them to do, is essentially what it is, and what I learned. And I got good at understanding all the tricks of what motivates people to take action. And in hindsight now, just thinking about it, I can remember and recall some of the discussions that I used to listen to on podcasts between these copywriting business owners and things, where they're essentially talking about the difference between persuasion and manipulation, and there's a fine line between it. And the argument was that if you're persuading someone, it's in their best interest, and you're trying to prod them in the right direction so they take action towards doing something that will benefit them. Manipulation is different. Manipulation, on the other hand, is getting people to do something that they don't want. Well, this was sort of the mantra, and this is the big concept that we all bought into as copywriters, business owners and whatnot, and we justified it to ourselves that it's persuasion because it's in the best interest of the person that's buying. I can see now in hindsight that this wasn't exactly the case, and I can see now that for several years I did engage in dishonest marketing. I engaged in manipulative behaviour, and I really did commit a lot of sins. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I had integrity. I've always been a transformative person, even before I came to Christianity, wanting what's best for other people, doing what I believe to be the right thing. But the reality is that I was lying to myself, and I couldn't see the forest through the trees. And I couldn't see the forest through the trees because everything that I was learning and consuming was based on what the current zeitgeist of business, work, marketplace, culture is, which essentially would be the spirit within the modern day workforce, business, work, marketplace, whatever you want to call it, is transactional. It's all about making money. The ultimate goal is for businesses is to make money, to pay the shareholders, to do this, to do that, to do the other. Businesses operate on making money. My brother-in-law works in insurance, selling insurance, and he's got a whole bunch of KPIs that he needs to hit each month. That's his target. Well, these KPIs are on how many sales they had. I have a friend that's involved in multi-level marketing, and every month she has targets set by her on what to do and what to achieve. And it's just how many sales, how many people, how many this, how many that. It's all transactional. It's all directed from the top down, where the top focus is making money, making money, making money. And that's what it is. And so when the goal of everything in the company and the culture is to make as much money as possible, that's the goal of a business after all, isn't it? You got the books that come out by, I forgot the name, but the book was called Profit First. Good book. Actually, I've got it on Audible, but I don't think I've listened to it. Good book, by all accounts. I've learned the concepts in it through indirectly, and from a financial accounting perspective, it teaches certain things, but is really the most important thing profit first? That's what I used to think, but now maybe not, because if you focus on profit first, every decision that you make as a freelancer, as a self-employed person, as a business owner, is based on making profit. As a result, you will then engage in sales and lead generation and marketing activity where the goal is to make money, because you're setting targets on how many sales you make and how much revenue you make. There's nothing wrong with making revenue, charging high prices and delivering value and all that stuff. Don't get me wrong. But when it's the only goal, and it's the highest order goal, everything downstream is based on it. And then it leads to decisions where if you have to hit your KPIs this month, or in my case, I promise a 6x return on their investment in their service. So they pay me, just for numbers' sake, this isn't true, but just so you understand, if they pay me $1,000 a month, I would make them at least $6,000 a month. So what does that force me to do? It forces me to then engage in what I believe to be persuasion. I believe right in my core that what I'm doing is best for this person, and I'm just prodding them in the right direction to take the next step where they can explore how this service can help them. Well, the reality is that that's not really the case, because marketing, good copywriting and marketing can get someone to take action and book a call. The thing is, you position the book call, the discovery call, or whatever you want to call it, as, you know, the way that you do it is you position it as, look at all of this that you get to gain, and there's absolutely no commitment at all. Free coaching session, free this, whatever you want to call it. You'll get clarity here, we'll talk about your problems, we'll provide a solution, no obligation, blah, blah, blah. And that gets people to buy and to express interest. In the same way that a webinar is used to, basically you hook people in, you talk about the pains and problems they have, and then you go on to providing talking about the solution, like the 20,000 foot solution, of course, and then you go on and then talk about all the benefits of the program, and you get people to sign up. It works. In the same way that getting people to book a call works if you use the right language, the right tactics, the right approach. Well, they then get onto a call with a salesperson whose primary goal is to make sales, to hit their KPIs. Good salespeople tend to work at companies that pay them a lot of money. They don't get paid a lot of money because they're not good. They get paid a lot of money and high commissions because they're good. They're good at selling people. They understand how to sell to a person in different situations. So what does this mean? You then go onto a sales call, and then you are basically sold to without you realising it. Good salespeople will sell to you and influence you with their knowledge, and then you present it with an offer that you can't refuse, with a time frame of making a decision, or you miss out, tap it into fear of missing out. This is how you get people to sign up. A lot of the times, though, if you have to use manipulative, high-pressure tactics to get people, by using just copywriting stuff, to get people to actually take the call, and then they talk to a salesperson on the call, not every one of these people are actually qualified. And this is what I did for so long. I remember once that on my old website, Freedom in Marketing, and inside my testimonial document that I got, the thing that I was most proud of, and then interestingly enough, the thing that I was most proud of before is now proportionate to how icky I kind of feel about it, to use a technical term, and that is that I used to brag of my best testimonial. Top of everything was I made this client. Here's how I made $250,000 for the client in 30 days. That was it. That was my big thing, the big thing I was proud of. The client wanted to make a lot of money that month. We set up a promotion that went over the course of a month. We had various different moving parts, all different funnels, all different segmentation, and, you know, technical jargon I'm using here. Well, the thing is, the client needed money because they had a bad month. They had a bad few months. They were in the red. If I recall correctly, it's been a couple of years back. And if they need more sales, with the current level of marketing that we were doing, we were sending daily emails, then recording podcasts, then doing all kinds of things. So all the people that wanted to buy, that it was a perfect fit for, would have put their hands up and said, I'm interested in this, I want to buy. At the very least, when we did the workshop, where we invite people to a workshop, and then we actually teach them stuff and engage with them and this and that, and then invite them, if they're interested, to explore it further at the end. That's the ideal. What I did was basically a webinar where I used all the tactics I could use to get as many people as possible to attend the webinar, and then I helped the client design the webinar in a way that get as many people as possible to book a call, and then they book a call with their best sales people, and then they basically make the sale. Well, the fact of the matter is, having to use these high pressure tactics, that all the people that would have received, that wanted it, would have signed up. Which means that all of the people that are, okay, not all of the people, because there are some people that sit on the fence, they need prompting to take action, that kind of stuff. But in general, when I came up with what I thought was a genius strategy of, let's offer a payment plan, 0 money down, all of this kind of stuff, pay as you start to make money afterwards. This is bringing in people that are opportunity seekers. Clearly, if you can't afford to pay the $5,000 for their coaching program, should you really be doing it if you can't afford the money? I'm not sure. In some cases, yes, but in other cases, no. Is that responsible to do that? The bottom line is, I was using manipulative and dishonest marketing, fake scarcity, all of the persuasion tactics that I used in copywriting, payment plans, fake scarcity, all of these funnels, in order to get people to first open the email or click the link in the social media post, then they go to a registration page for the workshop, and then a whole complicated series of things of people that landed on the registration page didn't register, people that registered, people that this, people that, get people to sign up to it, and then all the tactics there to get people to book a call, and then afterwards, and then, oh, look at all this stuff that I did. Well, how many of them people can I honestly say now receive the promise that I promised them within the outcome that I told them? Not that many. And that is the story of what I used to do in business all the time without realizing it. And then I look at my marketing agency, it failed. I ended up making a reasonable amount of money. I thought it was a lot at the time as a copywriter. And when I put it all into my business, and it failed. The reason why it failed, which is the second part, is, as I mentioned earlier, by nature, I am transformative. I want to help people. My goal is I want to make a difference. So whenever I work with a client in the past, I always went the extra mile. With one particular client, I remember he had a troll put a nasty comment on something that he did, or an email he sent, basically using every swear word and name you could imagine. Pretty shocking, really. And naturally he was upset about it. He'd just had a baby, sleepless nights, stressed, all of these things. So I read it, and then I spent probably close to 30 minutes in total. And I sent him a 10-minute voice note to coach him through, and here's what to do in this one, offer him as much support as I can through it, told, reframe the situation, and I'm positive that he got benefit from it. Well, the thing is, with this particular client, the amount of the fee that I was getting from him was relatively small. It was very small, in fact. It was tiny. It was a fraction of the amount of time that I gave him for that 30 minutes, as a result of him having a bad experience and demotivating, try and lift him back up. That was, the total fee that he was going to pay me would probably be equivalent to a couple of hours of work with other clients, another client in particular, in the past. And so, you know, I gave him it was the right thing to do. Well, essentially his response, and the same as every other person that I work with, was, oh, they didn't value it. It was, that's nice, Sam, but I'm paying you to do this. I'm paying for you to give me this specific deliverable. That was the story of everything that I had. With one client, I was consistently over-delivering month on month with the KPIs that we set, the targets I set of what I wanted to do. And then one day, unexpectedly, I received a message that they am terminating my contract with immediate effect. I inquired, shocked, naturally shocked. Why? Look at these and the results I've given you. What's wrong? The response was, well, you know, the sales team, Christmas is coming up, it's the holidays. The sales team are in Christmas mode. They're not taking as many calls, they're not pushing as hard as they normally do. The sales team aren't converting as many of your book calls as they were before. When cutting costs, you're the first to go. And then he went on to explain why. And, you know, from a business standpoint, where the only focus is making money, it was a good explanation. They have to let the contractors go first. They can't let the permanent staff go first, because, you know, that's just the way that it works. But then the question is, but why do I have to, why do I suffer the consequences of other people's poor performance? That's the reality in a transactional dog-eat-dog world that I was in. And so the reason is that I was a transformative person that wanted to help, wanted to coach, wanted to go the extra mile. But everything that I learned was transactional, focused on making money and making as much money as possible. And so, therefore, everything that I did was attracting people with a similar mindset, making money. So no wonder I struggled with burnout, lack of enthusiasm, couldn't get things right, no passion, no meaning, no nothing in what I did. No wonder, because who I am was completely inconsistent with the kind of people that I was attracting to. I was attracting to me as a freelancer and to me as in the business. No wonder it didn't work out, well, obviously. And that's basically what my story is. And, you know, there's countless more sins, but this video has gone too long. And I've got more to record as well before I go for my run. So basically all of the things I've done in the past, that's the journey that I've gone through. I've now repented for it, I can now see clearly. And as a result, the wisdom that I've gained from all of the suffering that I've had, all of the investments into the business and no financial return, the wisdom that I've got is this: I'm a transformative person. I want to focus on impacting people over just making money. Obviously, I want to make money and I want to become a good financial steward of the money. But the reality is that when you operate reactively, based on what the world says, based on the spirit in the marketplace, the workplace, the business, it will pull you towards this transactional thinking, because everything in the workplace is focused on money, KPIs, worldly things, materialism, and not on what matters most, which is having your highest transcendent goal, which for Christians is becoming Christ-like in what we do, and for non-Christians it would be the pursuit of excellence in your character, ability and integrity. Well, if you focus on these as the highest order aim, and then everything you do then is to help you become better at what you do, to help more people, to impact more people, and you focus on the right things, all of the other things downstream are going to fall into place. And then the marketing and the messaging that you come out with will attract the right people to you, and then you can have these meaningful relationships with the clients, and then you're attracting the right people to you, rather than being incongruent like what I was. So that's all. This as a concluding remark, this is a very, very common thing, especially for Christians who are working in the workplace. They got a job, they got a business, they've got their own business, self-employed, whatever it is. This is very, very common. The solution is quite simple for Christians. Is if you're feeling the burnout, the stress, the lack of enthusiasm, no motivation, that what you do, your work has no meaning or purpose, the solution really is that you have to stop, and then you have to look and anchor yourself in what it means to become Christ-like in everything you do as the highest order thing. Use ChatGPT to help you find what that means, to help you define it. And then when you have a vision of what it means to become Christ-like in what you do, at your work, in your business, in your job, you can then bring that down to the smallest unit of times possible, which is the decisions that you make on a day-to-day basis, on a minute-to-minute basis, hour-to-hour basis. And you can just ask yourself, what's the most Christ-like way I can act in this situation? Out of extravagant love, out of a pursuit of excellence, out of being having integrity. And then when you do that in everyday decisions, it builds the momentum, and then this is how you start to find meaning in what you do. It's how you start to impact people, and it's how you actually get the joy and fulfillment that you want. If this resonates with you and you want to explore how to actually implement this, I have developed a framework that I've used on myself quite successfully on myself, and I do want to try it out on a few more people just to see if it works in the interest of the lab aspect of Kingdom Impact Lab. I have a hypothesis. I've developed a framework based on a hypothesis. It's worked for me. The next step is let's try it on other people. If you'd like to find how we can apply this framework to help you anchor in becoming Christ-like and then getting more meaning, purpose and fulfillment in your business, work, whatever it is, then just reach out, contact me, sam@kingdomlab.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn. That's all. I hope you've enjoyed the journey of exploration. See you in the next video.